Well, thank you very much, Gary, for this really long introduction. What a build-up. This man is really great. He should write suspense movies or something like that. Unbelievable, what a talent. No, but I want to say that this is really great. I mean, look at all these people in here. I asked myself right away, where have you been when I opened up Hercules in New York 40 years ago? I mean, that movie went right in the toilet. There was no one there. Anyway, it is great to be here today with all of you, and I want to thank Gary Tobin for the great work that he is doing for the Chamber. Let's give him a big hand again for the great work that he's doing. And I want to thank also all the elected officials that are here today with all of us. And I want to thank, of course, the Chamber for the invitation to address you here tonight. I always love being with the Chamber, with the LA Chamber. Over the years, we have been great partners. And we have worked in so many different areas. Some of those areas we have actually been very successful, like reforming workers' compensation and infrastructure, rebuilding the state of California, and redistricting reform, and so on and so forth. But there's, of course, a lot of work that is still ahead of us. And that is exactly what I want to discuss here tonight, my priorities for the coming year. Now, I happen to be a big believer in teamwork. It doesn't matter if you are on a sports team or if you're in business or in politics, working together is the most important thing. And I think that last year in the Capitol, Democrats and Republicans also have shown what great things are made possible by teamwork. Working together, we solved the $60 billion deficit and got California through the front end of the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And we also passed major education reforms that I have been fighting for the last few years. We brought transparency and accountability to our education system, and we gave parents and students the freedom to leave failing schools and to give them the power to get the education that the children deserve. And another major accomplishment was water infrastructure. You all know how important it is for us to have enough water, but we finally got this water infrastructure package done. Now, Mark Twain said that whiskey is for drinking, and water is for fighting over. I think he must have been referring to California, that's for sure. Because for decades, this state was in a literal war over water, with old and deep divisions. But last year, the legislature came together and we passed the most comprehensive water package in half a century. Our package builds more above the ground and below the ground water storage. It fixes the delta and its ecosystem. It builds a canal, it cleans up the groundwater, and it tackles conservation. And now we must, of course, work very hard to pass the $11 billion water bonds in November. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. So last year, as you could see, we accomplished great things. And we must now build on that momentum in the coming year. As I've said many times, our first priority has to be in this coming year to get the economy back and to get jobs back. It's all about jobs. Now, in my State of the State address, I announced a jobs initiative that we estimate could create up to 100,000 new jobs. And over the last few weeks, I've been visiting businesses up and down the state of California to talk about my jobs package. And the exciting news is that even in those tough economic times, many of these businesses are looking to grow and to hire, especially in biotechnology, in high technology, in green technology, and so on. But the big question is just, as those companies will expand and hire, who will benefit? Who will get those jobs? Will it be California families, Arizona families, Nevada families? I mean, if California wants these jobs, we have to be competitive. And we have to act very quickly. Every day the legislature doesn't act, we risk losing more businesses, more jobs, and more opportunities for California. And that's why tonight I'm calling on the legislature again to pass my jobs package so we can start putting Californians back to work. Not next month, not next year, but now. Let's act now. Now, another huge economic driver is, of course, infrastructure. I've been a fanatic about infrastructure. Every $1 billion that we invest in infrastructure creates around 18,000 new jobs. Since becoming governor, I have pushed and pushed to rebuild California. And I'm proud that since taking office, we have approved $70 billion for roads, for schools, for housing, for prisons, for levees, high-speed rail, and the list goes on and on. Now what's very important is to get those dollars out the door. And that's why I'm working with Treasurer Bill Lockyer, so we can sell those bonds as quickly as possible and put people to work rebuilding our great state. Now, as I travel the state and talk to CEOs and small business owners, I ask them all the time, what's the biggest impediment to success? What's your biggest obstacle? And the answer is always plain and simple. It's government. It's the high taxes, it's all the mandates, it's all the regulations, the permitting, the labor laws, the red tape, and all of those kind of things. So government has a responsibility not to be an obstacle to success, but to be a partner in prosperity. And that's why Sacramento must become a better partner to the economy. And it's also important that Sacramento must reform its broken budget and tax systems. The basic problem is that our tax system does not reflect our economy, not at all. I mean, in 2009, California's economy declined only by 2.8%, but our tax revenues were down 8 times that much. That is no way to run a state. Here's what we need to accept, that our economy is 21st century and our tax system is 20th century. It is stuck in the wrong century. And the Tax Reform Commission, they did great work. They proposed major radical reforms. Now immediately some people in Sacramento say, that's impossible. We can't do that. This will be too hard to enact. Now what do they mean by too hard? I mean, if I would have thought about that and hesitated in my career because something was too hard, I would still be yodeling in Austria. So we must begin work on those tax reforms. I mean, budget reform is just as important. The budget crisis is our Katrina. We knew it was coming. We have known it for years, and yet Sacramento would not reinforce its economic levees. Now, I'm sure that some of the legislators may be getting tired of hearing me talking about year after year about budget reform, spending caps, rainy day fund, and all of those kind of things. Yes, they maybe get tired of me saying that. But you know what? The people are also tired. They're tired of their government spending money they don't have, that the government lives beyond its means. They're tired of that. They're tired of being treated like an ATM machine. The people are tired of the schools and the healthcare and the parks being put on a budget roller coaster ride. 1 year up, the next year down. People are tired of that. The people expect action. And this year, we have to reform those things. There's no two ways about it, because that is our job, to reform and to fix what is broken. Because think about this. If my budget and tax reforms had been in place over the last 10 years, this year's budget deficit would have been $8 billion less. And that's $8 billion that could go and help kids and the most vulnerable citizens.